are you guys doing tonight?
Doing great. Definitely feeling the summer.
I'm trying to hold on to my joy as much as I'm trying to hold on to my makeshift backdrop.
Oh, I see it sliding.
Yeah, it's just going to happen. I try my best, but my best sometimes doesn't impress most.
That's okay. That's okay. We're going to work with what we have because we're all trying to make it through this. So why don't you tell, oh yeah, Mark says his AC is running. I really wish I had put my AC unit in before this, but Marshall, Lindo, please take it away. Bless us and, let us know what story is that you're going to be sharing with us tonight.
Cool. Yeah, well, I am Marshall James Kavanaugh. I'm Dream Poet for Hire. You might know me from Rittenhouse Square. I set up pretty often when we're not in quarantine and type poems for people on demand. I've also been, a traveling poet, traveled around the country, spent a lot of time performing around Philly and around other venues in the area. Met Lindo over time, and we've shared the space. We've shared the non-digital stage as Poets for Peace, which was a tour that went around the country with a bunch of different poets in 2017 through 2019. And yeah, let Lindo introduce himself.
My name is LindoYes. I'm a spoken word artist. Very familiar to the spoken word scene in Philadelphia, and I have built a great friendship as well as just like, partnership in a very great capacity with Marshall as far as just touring, doing shows together, pitching ideas and bouncing ideas. And one of the projects that we have been like working on in this, digital time is Magic Manifestation, which I'm going to allow Marshall to explain a little bit more about.
Yeah, so I mean, Magic Manifestations. A poet who types in a park finds out he can't go to the park anymore safely. But I feel like poetry is just as essential, So worked out with a few collaborator friends from around the city as well as around the country. This idea of doing these live streams where instead of just doing performance-based art, we actually do similar to what I do in the park, live request line. So almost like Total Request Live for the poets and artists and creators out there. And similar to how I perform poems, we've just been working on, the simple like catch of pick a topic and we'll create something. We'll manifest some magic. Manifest by request. So yeah, with Lindo, we've been, we're both spoken word artists, we're both poets. We've been doing poetry on demand with our community here in Philly mostly, and really creating this space that, it goes beyond like what we're saying or like what our words are transmuting from the topics. It goes into creating this space that for 2 months, we haven't been able to gather in a room together, but yet we can gather in rooms like this and see each other's faces and talk about the current events that are happening around us and really put them through, like, I like to think like a poet, like think of a poet as someone who takes like the collective thought and turns it into something beautiful or transmutes it into something that's useful.
I vibe with that, and I think you have a fan in the audience because I see Stephanie dropped into the comments. Marshall, I had you write a poem for my husband on his birthday. It was so beautiful, and you made our day. So happy to see you here.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Stephanie.
Isn't it such a beautiful little community, small world? I know you're famous and you got admirers and everything, but it's nice to see that one of them is in this room. So, Lindo, tell us a little bit about your journey with Magic Manifestations. What's that been like?
It been to me like me and Marshall talk about it a lot, and at first I was hesitant about this space because this is new territory for me because Marshall been doing this a lot longer. As far as just like doing impromptu poetry and just making his poetry accessible for communities in ways I haven't yet. I'm so used to just like perform my poems on the stage and networking afterwards or hanging out afterwards. But Marshall put himself in a space of just immersing himself in the community and allowing people to prompt them on the poetry that they want to hear versus coming with that poem already presented for the community. So when I was doing the sessions with him, it reminded me so much of being like in a writer's room with the innovation of just like the stories coming about because the community is prompting you. So imagine behind the scenes of just like how this script is being created and what is the thought process between the two people that are creating the script, but also being engaged with the people that are going to be familiar with it, not familiar, but a part of the script, or the actors of the scripts are also prompting you of what is needed in the script. So this becomes more of a community poem than anything else I have done, because I'm asked, I need you to talk about this. I really like this line. That didn't really hit for me. This is what really needs to be told about this story, because this story is so much mine as much as it is yours. And when we invited that space, we also found ourselves talking about very vulnerable, heavy topics, and sometimes just very lighthearted moments that embrace both the joy during these times as much as it embraced the tragedy of just like social distancing or just the collective grievances that we're having because we're all losing time, opportunity, people, and just a general idea of quality of life. But there's also joy in these moments of just innovation, of just like, we're now being able to embrace an audience that was not accessible to us before because they don't have to be present in the room. So that allows us to be present with those that are differently able, those that have social anxiety and other ailments that is just like a space can be not as accessible to them all the time.
That's really powerful. And I appreciate the passion in which you're speaking about this, because it's something that I'm very passionate about too. And I know that Elise is passionate about it. So Elise Chang is in the room and she says, Quentin Hart, Lindo Hart, Marshall Hart, Dream Team. Yeah, baby. So thank you, Elise, for dropping in the chat box. Terry says, art has never been more essential. Poetry, visual art, music, dance nourishes our souls. And I 100% agree. This interest and this experience of what we're doing in general, outside of even this virtual space, this happy hour and story share, it's a very collaborative space, and that's one of the interesting things that actually brought Terry and Ava and Stephanie and I together, and Gabby's on the line, and I know Kanya's here. There's so many people from the Philly Counts working group that's here, and it was so awesome to see that there was this intention and mindfulness about creating an inclusive space for the community to put their energy somewhere. I think a lot of us found ourselves wanting to do more when we had more time on our hands. I think some people respond in very different ways to what we're going through, and the way that you and Lindo have decided to respond, the way that Philly Counts has decided to respond, and this energy of collaboration is really beautiful. And I'm so grateful to have met everyone at Philly Counts and at University of Penn. I'm definitely grateful to have met you both. I appreciate your early support of We the People stage when it's like, well, what is that? I mean, it's a cool name, but what is it, right? So thank you for also inviting me onto Magic Manifestations. Tell us a little bit more about this whole co-creation process. What has that been like? And what does the name Magic Manifestations mean to you?
So I think like the idea is, we're all setting an intention when we gather together. Beyond us like writing poems for people's requests, we also have a community topic. And they're usually like simple words, like let's all focus on this one intent, with the idea that like, collective thought and congregating together and creating together can be like a true medicine of spirit. And just like, I don't know, it's this beautiful process of creating these spaces where, I don't know, the healing can happen. It's something that I think Lindo can talk about within, poetry spaces in real life. as far as being a host for readings like reading series like Pecola Breedlove.
So I have worked over the last 5 years to create a safe space for Black artists, and with the focus on poetry and allowing all Black identities to be welcome in the space, and recognizing that within the spoken word scene, there's topics that we need to be vulnerable about, we need to come close about, and we need to hold each other about, and we need to hold space for. And I've been doing that for the last 5 years, and I recognize the healing properties of that space, and recognize how, like, so much for so long, I've been finding safety in poetry, because I was able to express my ideas in a ways of just like not it being interrupted by what I would say like white ideas or white microaggressions or anything else, and just allow it to be without having to focus on other voices interrupting it, and finding joy in that existence, in a sense what I like to describe as a Black joy, in the sense of just like thinking about myself, celebrating without any idea of oppression or taken away from it. So it is the joy of just like walking into the store, not being followed, and those other things, not always looked upon as a hinder to the environment, or just being simply valued, or not feeling the need to just like hide my anger or upsetness sometimes. And that's what that space provided for so many Black poets and, collectively Black artists all together. And Marshall had asked me to share a story that focused both on just like how my art is a safe space, but also sometimes when individuals are engaging in my art, it becomes an unsafe space in a certain sense. Because sometimes people's identity of freedom is an identity that's built on oppression, and silencing those voices, even though this space is for all of us and we all own this space. So I'm going to share a story that is then going to go into a poem that may sound like a story, but you're going to recognize both transitions. So I have done a lot of like activism work, and some of the activism work is running fundraisers to refuse fascism and recognize it in every parts of our American life. And these are monthly like showcases where it's just 3 artists that present things that are on the topic with their art or not on the topic, to allow us to just be in a space and mind that we're together in this idea of just refusing fascism and what does that mean. In the midst of like me hosting the show, I introduce an artist whose identity is white, as well as someone that is a woman, identifies as a woman, and they played the ukulele, they sung 3 songs, and then they ended their set with no discrepancies or anything that hindered their voice in that very moment. Then I did a poem. In the area that we're in South Philly near a park, and the park often has football practices that are going on, at the same time we're doing this event, and we're just holding space for both things. We're in the backyard of this establishment, they're in the park, which is, right across the street. So just to give you an idea of the vibe and the environment that we're in. And in the midst of me just sharing poems and stuff like that, there's a few neighbors that come out. One was an older white couple, and 2 were just older white individuals. And as in the midst of me sharing my poem, I'm recognizing from the back of the audience, gesturing to me to quiet down. Just to give you an idea of the volume of my voice, I'm not performing with a mic. I'm also recognizing that the other spaces that I'm sharing it with, as far as it being a neighborhood, as far as it being 5 p.m. on a day, and all those things I'm being considerate of, they gestured me to quiet down, and then they talked over me and said that, we're all for whatever y'all for, but you're also infringing on our rights to just be home right now. And it was one of those moments where I find myself being triggered because I'm so upset because the performer before me had an amp and was using a mic, an amp needed for their guitar and a microphone because they have a more soft-spoken voice than myself. And it was not the same type of attention given to them. It was not the same type of aggression towards their voice. And it made me think about my identity. It made me think of just like, what do I do in this moment so I can make sure I'm considering a community that's outside of me? Because like my feelings hurt, but right now I have to host an event. I have to, fundraise money to refuse racism, to combat these type of issues and microaggressions in the world. So I'm thinking to myself, I often kill people with kindness. So in that very moment, I'm like, oh, thank you so much for holding me accountable. I really appreciate, you giving me notice of this. I'm going to be moving through my set with more consideration and quiet down for the folks that are living in the neighborhood. As I continue in a more soft-spoken voice, I am then gestured down to even quiet down more, to the point where I'm just out of the poem now. The poem was my safe space, and I was hoping to, go back into the poem feeling just as safe and holding myself accountable moving forward. But then I just felt unsafe because it was just a moment where I was just like, yo, there's so much pressure as far as like responsibility that I hold of this event, hosting it. But then there's also a responsibility of myself of just making sure I get home tonight. And what does that look like? Because if they do call the cops, I don't want that interaction. I don't know how to unclench my fist in that moment. I don't know what that means. So I just end my set and I apologize to them. And then I gather myself together to introduce the next artist. The poems that they had grievances with, that they felt as though were too loud, are the poems I'm sharing now. My favorite parts of my day is when I get to experience joy with my nephew. When we get to throw back the football until the rain comes. And when the rain comes, we go inside, we watch cartoons. In the midst of us changing the channel, we see Donald Trump sit next to Obama. And every time I hear and see Donald Trump, I hear and see a bounty hunter black in plantation times that used to catch a runaway slave, bring him back to the auction block of plantation, or get a free man, rip up his freedom papers, bring him back to the auction block of plantation. Every time I think of the plantation, I think of the crime bill and how many people are put in the prison system as if it was a plantation. Every time I saw Obama, I saw a free man. Holding back tears, I looked my nephew in the eye and said to myself, it's a new day. It's a new day. Obama looked like a free man giving his house to the bounty hunter after endorsing the former slave owner that put us on plantations. He's trying to convince us that this is as American as apple pie, as if we didn't get a slice of it at the dinner table with Jim Crow, Uncle Sam, Uncle Tom giving us the Trayvon verdict. We are hurt, we are scarred, and America wants us to cover up our scars with our emotional makeup. Grin and bear, maybe put up a fist in silence. Well, there have been too many riots of the unheard. We finna turn up the volume of the speaker, make a lot of noise, break a lot of glass ceilings, stump on the floor, leave the ground breaking, because we've been carrying America on our aching lynch back for too long. And tell me, what's more patriotic than that? To love a country that keeps on reminding you that it hates you. I mean, the electoral college look like the red carpet for the KKK. And we finna cut a rug, do a 1-2 step that leave footprints of a giant, because they trying to abort for a nation. We're gonna abort that ignorance. Planned Parenthood is to raise sons and daughters to a new day to come. And I know they're gonna come for me, asking me to say sorry, where I've been too unapologetic lately, because I have too much faith in my culture, too much faith in my people, and too much faith in a new day to come. And I tell y'all something, I have been working too hard on my name to see it be a hashtag in the morning. I'm grateful every morning I don't wake up a hashtag, a trending topic of tragedy, a black and brown body outlined in white, red blood watering concrete because of red blood, red watering concrete because of shades of blue, white lies defining how black lives matter. My God, let's raise suns like morning. Too many suns we mourning, too many raises in the sun. And there's been a war on colors. Ever since we've been coloring and coloring books, they've been booking colors and books of obituaries. You should be worried. Because even those that survive lose years of their life in beige and gray boxes with no windows. When they come out, you can barely see their souls of their windows. They look lost. And I have lost myself in tears. Found myself here crying because I haven't yet grieved over Trayvon. He looked so much like me when I saw him. I thought I died. Became a hashtag in the morning, a trending top of the tragedy, a black and brown body outlined in white, red blood watering concrete because of shades of blue. White lies are finding how black lives matter, my God. Let's raise suns like morning. Too many suns we mourning, too many raises in the sun, too many raises in the sun, my God. Please don't let me be a hashtag in the morning. Thank y'all.